Good morning, and welcome to the Salem Lutheran Church Sunday Morning Bible Study. We'll be getting started in just a few moments. If you'd like to join in on the discussion, please join us by going to slcw.org and clicking the link to join the group. We'll be starting in just a few moments.
Well, good morning. Good morning, and welcome to Salem Lutheran Church's Bible Study on this beautiful Memorial Day weekend. It's actually pretty decent outside. It's a little on the cooler side, but still a nice day. Anyways, you may notice I'm wearing something a little unusual. Today I usually wear a dark color, but today I'm wearing red. Well, there's a reason for that. This Sunday is Pentecost Sunday. This is the Sunday when we remember how the Holy Spirit descended upon the original 12 disciples and filled them with the Holy Spirit. We always refer to this Sunday, Pentecost, as also the birthday of the church. It's when the church began, when the disciples began to leave Jerusalem and disperse throughout the world and bring the gospel of Christ to the nations. So anyways, happy Memorial Day weekend and happy Pentecost Sunday. If you come to Salem today, everybody you'll see hopefully will be wearing red. We've asked everybody to wear red, so that's why I have my red on. Anyways, today we are discussing Psalm 141, and this is another psalm written by David, and we believe that it was written during those difficult days for David. We've talked in the last couple weeks about how David had to flee the capital city. It wasn't Jerusalem at that time. Jerusalem didn't become the capital of the nation of Israel until well into David's reign, when he conquered the city of Jerusalem that was controlled by the Jebusites and made it his capital city. But David had to flee the capital because of growing tensions between himself and Saul, the king of Israel at that time. And it was fueled by the nobility who surrounded Saul, who saw David as a threat to the kingship of Saul. And so David had to flee the capital city. He had to go out into the wilderness areas. He did gather a band of men around him that became the initial openings of his army. But at this time, he was in hiding because Saul was seeking him out, wanted to kill him. And so this psalm comes from that period of time when David was hiding out from Saul and from his enemies. And you're going to hear that in this psalm because he talks about how he's praying to God, asking God to protect him from these evil men, not only from Saul, but also from the ones who are advising Saul and speaking against David, telling him that David is a threat, that he needs to find David, that he needs to kill David. And so David here is in hiding and feels this onslaught of all these evil people coming after him. And you're going to hear that in the psalm as he prays to God. My commentary that I use for this has this as an introduction. It says, this psalm has the title, A Psalm of David. It shows David as a man of tender conscience who asked God to deal with his own sin and weakness before addressing the wicked men who fought against him. It shows that David was even more concerned about evil inside himself than he was about evil from others. And I think that's pretty true. David had his faults. He wasn't a perfect man, but I think that he did try to do the right things in most of his life. But like all of us, like all men, he has his weaknesses and he made his mistakes. Anyways, with that bit of introduction, let's just jump into the psalm. So if you turn to Psalm 141, we begin with David kind of giving a description of prayer where he says, Lord, I cried out to you. And the word Lord here in Hebrew is Yahweh. Yahweh is the name that is used for God. It's the covenant God. It's the God who made the promise to Israel that he would be their God and that they would always be his people. And so the prayer begins by addressing this covenant God, the God who promised Israel, promised men like David that he would be with them. So he cries out, Lord, I cry out to you, Make haste to help me. Make haste to me. Give ear to my voice when I cry out to you. Let my prayer be set before you as incense, the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. So he compares prayer to incense. In fact, if you were to go to the Temple of Solomon, that was built by Solomon, and where they housed the Ark of the Covenant, as you came into the temple, you would look forward and you would see a bunch of steps that would lead up to a curtain. And was behind that curtain was the Ark of the Covenant. But at the bottom of the steps, on each side of the steps, was an incense burner. And the incense was always lit, and the smoke of the incense would rise up. And this was a symbol of the prayers of the people that would rise up. In fact, that plays a very pivotal point in the life of Christ, even. If you remember the story of Zechariah, he was a priest, and he was the father of John the Baptist. And we're told that it was the angel who came to Zechariah while he was tending the temple, doing his priestly duties. And one of those duties was he was tending the incense burners that were there in the temple to make sure that they were constantly lit, and that the incense, the smoke from the incense, was rising up like the prayers of the people. And so he compares our prayers to this incense, that our prayers rise up to God, just like he's asking, his prayers are rising up to God. And in fact, I remember when I was in the seminary, and they actually have a course that you have to take on how to conduct worship services. And one of the things I always remember and has stuck with me is what they call the prayer posture. And that is when the pastor is behind the altar and he's offering the prayers of the people. There's a special way you hold your hands. You don't hold your hands like this and fold them. You don't hold them at your side, but you do the prayer posture, which is this. So the idea is that we're lifting up our prayers to God. They are rising up to God. And the fact that it's like incense, and that the prayers of the people are a sweet smelling aroma in the nostrils of God. God loves the prayers of his people. They're like incense that rises up. And so David is talking about his prayer. Lord, I cry out to you. Make haste to help me. You can hear the urgency of David in his prayers. He's asking God to hurry up with haste. Come, listen to my prayers. Come, answer my prayers. Make haste to me. Give ear to my voice when I cry out to you. And when I heard that, I thought about parents. You know, it's always interesting that even when our kids are babies, they cry out to us, and we come running, don't we? Hear the baby crying, we go run into the baby to see what's wrong. And in fact, I was always amazed over the fact that my child could be in a group of other babies, but when my baby cried, I recognized that voice. I recognized his cry. And so that's what David is referring to. How I'm like a child. I'm crying out to you. Hear me, come. Let my prayer be set before you as incense. Let it be sweet smelling. Let it be acceptable to you, O God. Hear my prayers. Listen to my prayers. I hope they're pleasing to you. The lifting up of my hands, like that prayer posture, as the evening sacrifice. So you can hear David talking about prayer and asking God to listen to his prayer. Hear my prayers, oh my God. Listen to my pain. Listen to my sorrow. And then what is his prayer about? His prayer is about keeping him safe from evil, from these evil people that we talked about before, from these evil men who are saying bad things about David, who are talking evilly about David, about these men who are saying things to Saul that he's a threat. Go out and kill him, find him, seek him out, hunt him down, kill David. So his prayer is to keep me from evil. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Do not incline my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men who work iniquity, and do not let me eat of their delicacies. Keep my mouth shut. Set a guard over my mouth. That's basically saying, God, shut my mouth. Help me to shut up and listen. You know, one of the things I would always talk to people about is that when you have a prayer time, and I'd always encourage people to set aside some time each day for prayer. And I said, it doesn't have to be like a formal setting where you're sitting down in a chapel or at a church. You can just set aside some time in your daily life and to offer prayers to God. The other thing I would always encourage people to do would be to write down your prayer request. If there's a certain need or if there's a person you want to pray for, write that down on a sheet of paper, put it in your purse, put it in your wallet. And then when you get to that prayer time, pull that sheet out and then remember those things that you were thinking about in your prayers. And then I would always encourage people also to spend some time just not talking. As I would say, just shut your mouth, sit back and listen. And if you listen real carefully, if you listen real quietly, sometimes you can hear the voice of God speaking to you. And so that's what David is saying. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Do not incline my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works. In other words, he's saying, I'm being attacked by all these people. All these evil people are coming after me. They're attacking me. Lord, the easiest thing for me to do is to pray to you and to say, go get them, God. Pay them back for their evil. Get them for what they've done to me. And so he is saying, help me not do that. Help me not respond to evil with evil in my heart. Help me keep my mouth shut. Watch over the door of my lips. Do not incline my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men who work iniquity, and do not let me eat of their delicacies. Don't let me be like them. And that's an important thing, I think, for us always to take a look at, to judge people by their words, what they say. And one of the things I always used as a judgment was, before I said something, would I mind it if my kids sounded like that? If my kids said those kind of things? Or the people that I associate with as friends, are they really my friends? Would I be happy if my kids model their behavior after those people? And so I still continue to judge people that way. Do I want to be associated with people who act like that, who say those kind of things, who talk in that way? And if I wouldn't want my kids to act like that, if I wouldn't want my kids to say those kind of things, then why would I want to be with those people and allow them to maybe have an influence on my kids? Would I allow those people into my house so my kids could listen to the stories they tell, the words they use, the jokes they tell? Would I be happy if I heard my kids telling those same jokes? Or would I be happy if I heard my kids using those same kind of words? And if the case is not, well, then why would I want to associate with those kind of people? Pick your friends wisely. Pick people who have a good heart, a heart for God. And to me, that was always important. What kind of heart does somebody have? Is their heart set with God? One of the things, whenever we had an opening on our staff at Zion, when I was pastor there, and there would always be a committee that was formed, kind of a personnel committee to seek out that next person, take in resumes, look at the resumes, and interview them. And I never got involved in the process until they had one person, and they wanted to see if that person was compatible with me. That was difficult sometimes. I'm not the easiest person to be compatible with, but one of the things I would always say to those committees when they interviewed people is I would always say, look for somebody with a good heart. Whether you're talking about somebody to be head of your choirs and your bells, whether you're talking about somebody to be head up your children's ministry or your youth ministry or whatever ministry that you're involved in, or even your secretaries and staff people and finance people. If you're going to hire somebody, look for somebody with a good heart. I said, the other skills, you can teach them. You can help them learn those skills. But you can't teach people to have a good heart. They either have them or they don't. And that is still the characteristic I use to decide who is going to be one of my friends. Do they have a good heart? Is their heart set with God? So judge people by their heart, not by what they can do for you, not by what they can say for you, but judge people by the heart they have. So choose your friends wisely. Besides that, if they might lead you into bad habits themselves, if you have friends who you don't really particularly admire that much, well, you might start copying their behavior. So always pick friends who model yourself. Do not let me eat of their delicacies. I love that expression. It's the whole idea is don't be entrapped by people. One of the real dangers I think that we have to deal with is we look at sometimes people who maybe don't have the best morals or the best values in their life, and yet they seem to be prospering. And we might want to say to ourselves, well, maybe I should be just like that. Maybe I should act like them. Maybe I should be in my business world or with my family like that, because look how well they're doing. Look at the house they're living in. Look at the cars they're driving. Look at the money they have. We look at people at business practices and we say, well, look how successful they are. Maybe I should pattern myself after them. Maybe I should be like them, because look how successful they are. Look how well they are doing. Maybe I should be like them. Well, David is saying, I don't want to do that, because sometimes we look at people and we see the practices that they have. I'm not going to mention anybody in particular, but I'm thinking of one particular man who's a multi-billionaire, one of the wealthiest men in the world. And yet when they look at his business practices, how he treats his employees, it's not very good. So do I want to be like that? Do I want to act like that? Do I want to treat people like a commodity just so I can get ahead? Well, there's a real danger, I think, in that as we look in our life and we see people who seem to be successful. And in our society, we always judge success by wealth, don't we? By the number of things you have, by the toys you can own, by the money you have, the houses you live in, the cars you live in, the cars you drive. And so we think, well, maybe I should be like them because look how successful they are. I remember one time I had a friend who said, in his desperation, he was really upset. And he said, it is true that the meek will inherit the earth, but only after the rich and powerful are done using it. And sometimes it seems like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We look at the world and we see these evil people getting ahead, people who have no morals, no values, who maybe even talk like they're good Christians, but we look at their lives, they're not. And we think, well, maybe I should be like that. Maybe I should act like that. Maybe I should think like that. Because look how well they're doing. Look at the houses they're living in. Look at the vacations they take. Look at the boats they have. Look at the cars they drive. Maybe I should be just like that. And David is saying in his prayer, don't let me get sucked into that. Don't let me see those evil people and see how they're prospering. They're sitting next to Saul. They're doing really well. Don't let me be enticed by that. Don't let me be drawn in by that. Don't let me want to be like them, because that will only lead me down the road of destruction. Yeah, I think there's a lesson in there for all of us, isn't there? There's a real danger in being drawn into that kind of lifestyle. Because like I said, in our society, we judge people, I think, by the things they have. In fact, I always remember for some reason, I just remember this cartoon that I used to have in my office. And it showed two elderly gentlemen in a cemetery, and they were standing next to two fresh graves. And one had a big tombstone on it, and with a guy's name and the dates, etc., on it. And then next to the grave was a smaller grave, and it had a smaller tombstone, and all that was on that tombstone was a dollar sign. And the one guy was turning to the other guy and said, "Oh my gosh, he did take it with him." Well, the truth is we can't. What do we take with us? We take with us, I think, the love of people around us. We take away the goodness. I always remember the end of the movie Ghost, if you remember that movie, with Patrick Swayze and I think Demi Moore. And he played this ghost, and at the end, he's leaving her to go into the light. And he says to her something, I'm going to paraphrase, but something like, he says, the one thing I have found out, the thing that you take with you is the love of people around you. And I think that's true. That's what we will take with us, not our possessions. They will be left behind for somebody else to divide up. When I'm gone, my will give my stuff to my children and to my grandchildren. What will I take with me? Just the love of people around me. And so that's what we should focus on, not be sucked in by those people who say, look, you can get ahead. You can, if you just act like this. Well, don't. And so David goes on about how he wants to be not affected or influenced by the evil people around him, but rather he wants to be influenced by the righteous. Let the righteous strike me. It shall be a kindness. And let him rebuke me. It shall be as excellent oil. Let my head not refuse it. Let the righteous strike me. Associate with good people, David is telling us. Let their goals rub off on me. Let their values rub off on me. That's like I was talking about before. I said, David is saying, I don't want to get sucked into the evil and the hatred of those people around me. It's so easy to get sucked in, either to look at people who are evil and say, I want to be like them because look at the success they're having, or to look at people who are being bad to you, people who are attacking you, people who are taking you on. It's easy to say, well, I'm going to retaliate. I'm going to get them. And I can remember many times in my own life when I felt like I was under attack. One of the things about being a pastor is everybody thinks that pastors are valued and cherished. Not always the case. One of the things I used to tell young pastors who were starting out, always remember when you get to a church, the first thing that will happen is they will set you up on a pedestal. And then they will spend the rest of your time at that church trying to pull you down from it. And so it's easy when you're attacked by people like that to want to retaliate, to want to get even. That's part of being human. When you're a human being and people are attacking you, your first knee-jerk reaction is to want to attack back. And so David is saying, I don't want to be like that. These people are being evil. They're attacking me. They're coming after me. They're doing what they can to bring me down. I don't want to be like them. So I'm going to surround myself with righteous people. Let the righteous strike me. I'm going to surround myself with good people. Why? So that when I begin to stray, when I begin to pass off onto other things, when I begin to adopt bad habits, those people will look at me and say, Alan, come on, don't be like that. Don't act like that. And I've always been fortunate enough to have those kind of people in my life, that when I have strayed from what I know is right and what is good, I've always had those kind of people there to pull me back and say, no. That's not what God would want from you. That's not what Jesus would want you to do. What would Jesus do in this situation? What would Jesus want you to do? How would he like you to act? I've always been fortunate enough to have those kind of people in my life. So let the righteous strike me, meaning when I stray off the right road, when I'm not passing on the right way, they will yank me back, pull me back onto the right path. So let the righteous strike me. It shall be a kindness. That when people like that correct me, it's not a bad thing they're doing. They're doing a kindness to me. And that's what David is saying. I want to associate with good people so that when I stray, they will pull me back. David always had those kind of people in his life, people who would pull him back. In fact, I remember, I don't have much time left this time, but I always remember the story of David when he fell into a bad situation. David had many weaknesses. One of those was women. And the story is told about how one time he got enticed by Bathsheba and ended up committing adultery with her, having her husband killed, and taking the wife Bathsheba into his household. And you can read the story. I'm not going to go all that into detail, but David was fortunate in that he had a good friend named Samuel, who was the prophet to Nathan, who was the prophet to David. And the story is told how Nathan comes to David one day and says, I got a story to tell you. There was this man who had only one sheep, but he loved that sheep more than anything else in the world. But there was a rich guy down the road who had a herd of sheep. But when a visitor came, he went and sent for that one man's sheep, had him butchered so he could serve his company, that sheep. And what should we do with a guy like that? And David said, well, we're going to have him arrested and punished for that. That's a terrible thing he did. And Nathan looked at David and said, you are that man. He was calling the great king of Israel, to account, because he said, you have killed a man and you have stolen his wife and brought her into your household. So David had people like Nathan. Now, David could have responded to Nathan by saying, get that guy out of my sight. I don't want to listen to that. No, he didn't. Instead, he repented. And we were told that he went into the temple and fell at the altar of God and asked for forgiveness. David always had those kind of people in his life who would pull him back and straighten him out. And I'm going to have to stop at this point because we're out of time. We'll finish the Psalm next Sunday with Psalm 141. But for now, I'm going to turn over to my good friend Timothy and say, Tim, what's going on at Salem?
Well, thank you, Pastor. Great Bible study, and we're going to do part 2 of Psalm 141 next Sunday. So that I have that noted down here. All right, things that are going on at Salem, and they start with at 10 a.m. our Pentecost worship, the birthday of the church, where the Spirit was pushed onto the disciples. Flames came down. They all got the ability to speak different languages, so everybody could understand. And we hear about that more during the sermon this afternoon, or this morning. Well, it'll be this afternoon by the time I'm done with the sermon.
Yeah, I hope not.
So at 10 a.m. we have worship. Please join us. If you want to come in person, join us in the sanctuary. If you want to watch on live stream, we're available on Facebook Live. And later on, if you want to watch it again, we're available on YouTube at about 5 o'clock as a preview or a premiere, as they call it on the YouTubes. At 11 o'clock today, we have fellowship following worship, and you can come downstairs in our fellowship hall, have good treats, good conversation, good people, and enjoy the fellowship that we share. This afternoon, actually at noon, council meeting, 12 o'clock. Be ready, be square. We got that meeting and we crank it out, and we'll see you there at 12 noon. At 2 o'clock, we have Avenues Worship, which is Worship at the Avenues at 2 o'clock. If you want to hear my sermon again, before you hear it again during the YouTube premiere, you can come and hear it presented again at the Avenues, because it's the same sermon they use. Anyway, so you can join us for that. Monday nights, we have Monday night NFL, and that stands for Nourishment, Fellowship, and Learning. The Nourishment and Fellowship go from 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock, and we're going to have a cookout, hot dogs, hamburgers, all the fixings. We hope that you join us for that in the pavilion area, if the weather is permitting, and join us for that. And then at 7 o'clock, the Fellowship and Learning continues for the evening, and that is us watching an episode of The Chosen. And that will most likely happen inside in Fellowship Hall. So join us for those activities on Sunday and Monday. Now, we also continue on our year-long goal of reading the Bible from cover to cover. And that program has Fridays at 7 o'clock, a Zoom gathering of people that are participating, come together, talk about what they've been reading, offer prayers for those in need, think about those that we can serve in the community, then we're sent out to do that service to God's children. We do this every week on Friday, starting at 7 p.m. The link to all of that can be found on slcw.org, and you just click that link that says, click here to join group. And that Friday is not live stream, but it is available on YouTube if you go to the proper list. And that is the video playlist that we have set up for that Bible study. You can't participate. We'd love you to participate. It's a Zoom participation program. We'd love you to join us on Fridays at 7 o'clock and join in. And that is what we have. Oh, well, I guess I should mention next Sunday, 9 a.m., Bible study with Pastor Nathan, continuing on Psalm 141. We'll call it part 2. And I will hand it back to Pastor Nathan at this time. Thank you very much, Pastor.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Sounds like a lot going on. Well, anyways, next week we'll pick up with Psalm 141. In fact, I think as I was listening to Tim talk, I think maybe next time I'll talk a little bit more about the whole David and Bathsheba story, because that's an interesting moment in David's life, and I just kind of skimmed over it. I'll get in a little more detail about it next week when we look at Psalm 141. But until next week, may God's blessings fall down upon you. May He give you a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And on this weekend, we remember all those brave men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice in defense of this country. And so I encourage you all to pause and remember those people, that's what this weekend is really about. And remember those young men and women who are still in harm's way as they serve this country in faraway lands. So God bless America, and God bless our servicemen. Anyways, with that, I hope I see you all next Sunday. Until then, may God's blessings flow down upon you, and may He keep you, as always, smiling until we meet again. God bless you all. Have a great week.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Oh, he already left us, Regina. He is very quick.
Yeah, he is.
See you at church.
Okay, you're coming. See you then.